Hello, ladies. I apologize for my absence today. However, Fox has a fever, and I am home with him at this particular moment. Now, what we are going to do today, you can find on Teams under College Essay Intros and Conclusions. But before we get into that, I just want to do a quick announcement that it is still a one-day, and your reading logs are still due by 3 p.m. today. The rest of the English team will be collecting those reading logs for me. So please still get your reading logs in and get those points as we've discussed previously in class, and we can go ahead and make sure we get that done. All right, so let's talk about intros and conclusions and what you're going to do for class today. Basically, everything can be found here on Teams. Now, you may be thinking it's weird that one of our last lessons for this unit is on the intro and conclusion. However, writers at your stage think you have to start off with that intro and get everything done, but the reality is that most writers find it nearly impossible to create an essay by beginning with the introduction. You really got to have your narrative first. You got to have your story before you can introduce it. So ultimately, those leads develop during and after the writers have written the actual story. So that fantastic intro and conclusion that you can create really can't come about until you've spent some time in the actual drafting process for your narrative. You need to really find your essay before you can find your introduction and conclusion is the point. So that's really why intros and conclusions are really difficult. And I mean, how many of you have ever written an essay and then your conclusion is like 4 sentences long because my essay's done. You want to make sure that you want to have your story first before we can actually get that introduction, okay? All right, and conclusion, okay? So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about intros and conclusions and what really make them pop in college essay writing. And then that's what you're going to do for homework, is that you are going to create a wholly new intro and conclusion that frames your narrative in a new and exciting way. So everything you need is going to be found in this PDF that you can then take to draft your essay. Now, first thing, one thing that I have noticed, one thing that's really interesting about some of your essays, not all of you, but for some of you have begun your essays in this really exciting jumping right into the middle of the action way with some dialogue, and that really pops. That's a great attention getter. Now, that's actually a very sophisticated writing technique where you're beginning a story in media res, which really means that you're beginning a story in the middle of the action. So there is, because if you're doing that, and you've done that and you really think it hooks your reader well, you may find that you need to drop the introduction. You might not even have an introduction that would really, your introduction would lessen your essay's hook because you've got this fantastic dialogue really popping with your intro. And if that's the case, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But that really means that your conclusion has to be powerful and really wrap up why this is such a telling and important event in your life. Okay, so what are you doing today? First off, we're going to redefine introductions for your assignment. The introduction for you is not going to be this full paragraph thing. The introduction we're really looking for is maybe a sentence to at most 3 sentences. Again, word count does matter. So we got to get our introduction down on the ground in as concise a way as possible. And that's going to be kind of tough to do because your essay's intro, this intro sentence is going to have to do 2 things. It's going to have to set the major theme of your essay, but it's also going to have to hook the reader. So you really want to do a couple of things with this intro. So some quick tips. One, we can't say too much. Like I said, your intro, it's not lengthy. It's like I said, if you've got 3 sentences, you've probably hitting the limit right there. You need to have the rest of the essay say what you want, okay? Don't try to pack in this massive, it's not an academic writing essay. So you don't have a thesis sentence. You don't have the same structure, okay? Don't begin with a summary. Don't tell us the whole story. If you summarize, your admissions officer doesn't need to read the whole essay. You want to leave them with some mystery so that they want to read the rest of your essay. All right. Now, what are some ways that I want to see you attempting to begin your essay? So here's a quick brief overview of the strategies that I want you to pick one of these and implement it to really make your intro pop. And again, you may have to try a couple of them on to see which one really fits best. So your first stop, your academic intro. Now, your academic intro is basically going to be very typical, standard introduction that you're comfortable with. It's going to give you the who, what, where, when, why, and how. And that's really just it, okay? Here, it's just basically you trying to give them a very short, simple thesis statement, okay? So some quick examples here. One of the greatest challenges I have overcome was to move from Iran to the United States. Iran was in deep political turmoil when I left, as it is today. Very straightforward, very much giving you the who, what, where, when, why, and how, and essentially tells you there was a challenge. It's right in the title. It's right in it. Here's the challenge, and I overcame it. Through all my accomplishments and disappointments, I have always been especially proud of the dedication and fervor I possess for my personal beliefs and values. Pretty straightforward. This is a personal statement through and through right here. Next, we move on. We got the creative introduction. A creative introduction is going to catch the reader off guard with an opening statement that leaves the reader wondering about the rest of the essay. Imagine yourself as a freshman in high school, beginning your independence. As the oldest child, I was the first to begin exploring the worlds of dating, extracurricular clubs, and upperclassmen. However, one afternoon, my parents sat my 2 sisters and me down. They said, the story is left with this hook. This is a really great intro here, okay? They're setting the stage with explaining, I'm the oldest. I was the pioneer in my family. This is what happened, okay? Start with an action sequence. An action introduction takes the reader right into the middle of the action sequence. Right here is the thing that I talked about earlier with that no intro idea, is that some of you are really beginning right in the middle of the action. And that's really captivating, okay? It forces the reader to read on to really find out the significance of the moment. But there's the tricky part right there, is that if you're doing this and you're not setting the stage for why this moment was so important at the beginning, you really have to do a very crystal clear job of that in the conclusion. So I'm really going to be focusing on that. Okay. Here's a great model. Surrounded by thousands of stars, complete silence, and spectacular mountains, I stood atop New Hampshire's presidential range, awestruck by nature's beauty. Immediately, I realized that I must dedicate my life to understanding the causes of the universe's beauty. It's a very high-minded one, but here they're starting you right in the verb of what this person's doing. Okay? Gotta move a little bit quicker here for the time here. Dialogue intro. Like the action introduction, the dialogue introduction brings the reader directly into the action through dialogue. And again, I need to kind of pick it up a little bit here. You notice with the dialogue ones, this is the intro that some of you are already doing and you don't even realize it. And that's great. So the thing that you need to do a little bit clearer here, echoing the prejudice, ignorant sentiment that I had grown up with. What you really have to do a little bit more of is establishing the context for why this moment is so significant. Why are you beginning it? What does the dialogue reveal about character? That's the crucial part there, okay? So you want to pay attention to, if you have dialogue at your beginning, how are you doing that second part, revealing the context of why this dialogue, what does this dialogue say about you or the speaker? All right. Overarching social statements, okay, you might want to put forth a social observation, okay? High school is a strange time. After 3 years of trying to develop an identity and friends in middle school, students are expected to mature immediately on the first day of ninth grade. That's talking about just the state of high school education. And then finally, the personal introduction. This is a way that many of you might want to really try to tackle because it takes the reader directly into your mind and it's really approachable. This is essentially, you're saying, this is what it's like to be me. This is my worldview, okay? At times, I think the world around me is crumbling to the ground, but it never does. Like most people, I face the crunches of deadlines and endless demands of my time, but I've never encountered the type of adversity that can crush people, that can drive people crazy, that can drive them to suicide. Okay, it's a good little personal statement there. Or you can begin with an intro. Okay? This is an easy approach, okay? So you have to be careful that it might seem lazy to people, but it is a way to really kind of get into how you think and question the world, okay? How many of you thought about starting with a powerful quotation? If someone said it better before you, why not use their words? Okay, so kind of running low on time here, so I want to kind of speed up here. What I want you ladies to do is that I've listed out many different ways that you can begin your intro. Your intro is going to be, like I said, maximum 3 sentences. I want you to construct me a great introduction, which you can do using one of these strategies listed out here, and use the models to guide you. And then conclude it with a chance. The conclusion is the way that you're going to finally leave a lasting impression on your admissions officer. You want to leave the admissions officers really thinking that that was a satisfying read. So what I want you to do in practicing, I want you to add another paragraph where you're going to talk about the broader implications of your discussion. Okay? Bring the conclusion back to the intro. Start with the intro, come up with a strong intro, and then your conclusion wants to link back to it. All great writing comes full circle. Okay? And then, of course, I want you to end on a positive note. You want to restate your goals, and then also keep in mind, how are you going to fulfill your goals at the institution? Why is this one institution vital for you to implement your goals? Okay? Show them why you are applying to their school and how you plan on using this life lesson you talked about in their institution. Okay? So, I want you to try to tackle these do's and certainly not the do nots. Don't summarize. Don't use stock phrases. In conclusion should not show up in your conclusion. And don't try to explain big, giant ideas like why starvation exists. Why does bad things happen to good people? Don't do that. So I want you to now look at your intro and conclusion and create something that really fits into one of these intro categories and a conclusion that does these 3 things for me. All right? So I want you to try to tackle that, and we can look at that on Wednesday and see how your your essay is really starting to take final, complete shape. Okay? Email me if you have any questions. Don't forget your reading logs, one final note. And other than that, you're going to have approximately 45 minutes to construct these essays.